Welcome to the webinar. My name's Neil and my job today is to walk you through some stuff and give you some information and get you to face three very important questions. Now, before we get going, I want to stress something very important. First of all, this is not one of those webinars where at the end you're going to be asked for a check or get your credit card out or we're going to sell you some high-ticket item or whatever. You couldn't pay us any money for watching this webinar, even if you tried. It's simply designed to give you some information, to ask you three questions, and to see where you go from there. So, as I say, the webinar is called Why Life is Not a Game. Trouble is, in life, none of us know just what's around the next corner. Life happens. We turn on the TV, we see life happens. We read our newspapers, we see life happens. But you know what? We always think that when life happens, it's never going to happen to us or our family. It's always going to happen to some other poor guy. Let me ask you the first of the three questions. What if you're one of the 37% of American people that the government say are destined to become disabled before you hit 65? The Council for Disability Awareness says it happens more often than you'd imagine. Did you know that 1 out of every 4 of today's 20-year-olds are going to get to be disabled before they retire? Over 37 million Americans are classified as disabled. That's about 12% of the total population. And more than 50% of those disabled Americans are in their working years. In other words, they're between the ages of 18 and 64. 8.8 million disabled wage earners, which is over 5% of all US workers, were receiving Social Security disability benefits before the end of 2012. In December 2012, there were over 2.5 million disabled workers in their 20s, 30s and 40s, all of whom were receiving Social Security benefits. Going to give you some statistics on the slide in front of you that come from the CDA's disability risk calculator. Let's take a typical woman. A lady aged 35, she's about 5'4", she weighs 125 pounds. She's a non-smoker and she works mainly in an office job, and she's got a reasonably healthy lifestyle. These are the risks that she faces. She has a 24% chance of becoming disabled for 3 months or longer, and that's during her working life. She has a 38% chance that disability will last for 5 years or more, and the average disability for somebody like her lasts for 82 months. If she smokes, that risk increases to 41% chance of becoming disabled for 3 months or longer. Okay, that's the ladies. What about the guys? Well, a typical man aged 35 who's 5'10", weighs 170 pounds, he's a non-smoker and he works an office job, he has the following risks. He runs a 21% chance of becoming disabled for 3 months or longer. That's again during his working lifetime, and he's got a 38% chance that disability is going to run for 5 years or more. The average disability for somebody like him lasts 82 long months. I want to tell you a story about a guy called Jack. Now, Jack's disabled. 10 years ago, he contracted a very severe case of shingles, and that left him with permanent nerve damage to the whole side of his head. Jack can't work, and Jack had to go live with relatives. You know why? He gets $800 a month Social Security disability income. That's what he has to live on. So my question for you today is this: what would you do? At this point, I want you to press pause on this video, go down below and you'll see a handout that I want you to download and fill in. It's a very simple thing. It just has 3 questions. What do I spend every month to live? What would I have for Social Security? That might be $700, $800, $900 if you're lucky. And what's the shortfall? How much money would you and your family be short of every month to pay the bills? So once you've downloaded that and completed the thing, just press play again and we'll pick up where we left off. Here's the next question. What if you're one of the 70% of people the government say will need long-term care? You can see the picture in front of you. We're going to separate some myths from some facts. The myth is that most people do not need long-term care. And yet the government website, longtermcare.gov, says that 70% of people, that's nearly 3/4 of everybody that makes it to the age of 65, can expect to use some form of long-term care during their lives. The next myth is they say, well, okay, so I need some long-term care, the government will pay. After all, under Medicaid, my house is exempt, right? Wrong. The fact is, the eligibility criteria for Medicare says in most states, they will recoup the cost of any long-term care and expenditure from your estate when you pass on. In other words, if you think that the government's going to pay and you're going to pass on your house or savings or whatever when you do unfortunately expire to the kids or whoever, you need to think again. The government will be there with a handout big time. The next myth people say to me is, since there's no cure for Alzheimer's, say, there's no need to plan. Well, the fact is that planning ahead has real benefits for you and your loved ones. Here's another myth. People think, I can save enough on my own to cover the costs. You know, the fact is less than 1/3 of all Americans who are 50 or above have begun saving for long-term care. It can be really expensive, and it might endanger your retirement or other savings. The last myth I'm going to talk about, people say to me all the time, is, it's inevitable as we get older, we're going to fall, we'll break something or whatever. Here's the fact. Falls in and around the home are very preventable, and you can learn how during Older Americans Month. I want to introduce you to another story now. This is a story about John and Emily. My friend's mum and dad lived with him for 3.5 years before his dad passed away. Then a year later, Emily, his mum, needed to move to a nursing home because she'd become 100% bedridden and she was suffering with advanced dementia. But because all she had was $1,200 in Social Security, the family had to fight long and hard for many, many months before Medicaid would agree to get her looked after. What would you do? The Grand Villa is an assisted living facility in Central Florida where we live, and independent living there begins at $2,100 a month. Assisted living begins at $2,800 a month, and memory care, so that, what people need when they have dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever, that starts at over $3,800 a month. And you know what? They still charge you other costs for moving in and all sorts of other sundries. How would you pay the bills? Now, press pause again, and when you look below, you'll see there's another worksheet that you can download. This one's very simple. It just says, what is it going to cost for my long-term care? How much do I have in disability income, or do I think I'll have from a 401k or an IRA? And what's the difference? Maybe you're in profit, but maybe, like many of us, there's going to be a big hole. If that's the case, how would you pay the bills? Glad you're back. The third question. What if you're one of the 33% of Americans who will have absolutely zero saved by the time you get to 65? On March the 14th, 2016, Time magazine published a really interesting article. They showed that 1 in 3 Americans has saved nothing for retirement. They worked out that 56% of all Americans will have less than $10,000 put away, and 23% have got less than that specifically saved for retirement. If you look at the next slide, it's an infographic. It shows 1.3 Americans has got nothing. You can see on the far left, there's the orange couple as John and Jenny, and, no retirement savings, 33% of the population they represent. And then you can see how 23% have got less than 10, and then we have a band in the middle where people have got 10 to 50, 50 to 99, and so on. And then at the end, surprisingly enough, 23% of couples, when they reach that sort of age, have got $300,000 or more. Which category would you fit in? And this is a point that we need to not just drink the Kool-Aid, but we need to be real honest with ourselves when we look at our situation. You know, the next slide shows that women are less prepared than men when it comes to retirement. 38% of women don't have any retirement savings, 30% of men. There's a difference there, and I think that's largely because women take time off from their careers, they have children, they maybe go back to work part-time, maybe they don't have the same sort of matching contributions, all sorts of reasons, but the fact is, you ladies are less prepared than the guys when it comes to retirement. You can see the figures on the screen for yourself. I want to introduce you to a guy called Fred. Now, Fred is part of the same family that the other two examples that I've given you are. Fred lived with his daughter and son-in-law and the family for 8 years. You know why? That's because although Fred worked very hard over his life and Fred gave his family a lot of good things, Fred didn't plan for the day he would become retired. When he got to that day, he found he only had $300 a month plus his Social Security to pay his bills. So the question is, who would you live with? Now, once again, press pause and you'll see a third button down below. Download that, and that's a retirement calculator. It says how much you're going to spend every month on paying the bills, keeping a roof over your head and food on the table. It shows a line for how much income you think you'll have from your savings or your Social Security or your retirement incomes. I want you to see whether there's a shortfall or whether there's a surplus. Welcome back. We all need answers to those three questions. What if we become disabled before 65? What if we need long-term care? What are we doing about retirement income? Here's the thing. Most people don't plan to fail. They fail to plan. Here's a quote from a guy called Dave Ramsey. I'm sure you've heard of him. It says, "You must gain control over your money or the lack of it will forever control you." And Ramsey puts through a set of priorities. He said, number one, pay yourself first. Then adjust your priorities and change your thinking. Adjust your lifestyle. Maybe make some extra money. Avoid the credit trap and have some goals and have a plan. Why does he say adjust your priorities? Well, as we go through life, as we get older, our circumstances change. Maybe you've just recently got married and so all you can think about is maybe planning a family and all the rest of it. Or maybe you've been there, done that, you've got a couple of young kids. Now your priority and your thinking might be towards college education for those kids. Or maybe you're a bit older, you've done the kid thing, you've done the college thing, and that's all done. Now you've got just you and your wife and you need to plan for your future, and so your priority might shift at that point more towards retirement. And the reason I'm explaining this is just so that you understand as we move through the game of life, our thinking, our circumstances, our situations, and our priorities do change. Here at Capital Choice, we offer a complimentary money track analysis that'll give you a personalized roadmap to help you make financial decisions. We sit down with you one-on-one, we input all sorts of data into the computer, data that you provide, and we hit send, and it gives us all sorts of projections and illustrations of what's going to happen next. What I like about it, what's really cool, I think, is you can say, okay, what if we change this assumption? Or what if we change that assumption? What effect will that have on the overall picture? And so MoneyTrack is a customized analysis tool. It's crucial to help families make better choices. And while other companies sell products and solutions through 1-800 numbers and websites, our job at Capital Choice is to educate people and families on basic financial principles so that they can plan for their future. And then we show them how to apply that knowledge to their personal situation. So here's a question for you. I know I said I'd ask three, but here's a fourth one. Where do you stand? Our MoneyTrack interview is very easy to understand. Unlike a lot of the industry financial programs, MoneyTrack creates reports that you can read and understand. It's not gobbledygook. It's not balance sheets. And the program offers a real-world view and a step-by-step approach to help you accomplish your goals. It's comprehensive. It gives you a real comprehensive snapshot of your finances, your net worth, your retirement, your college, your savings, your income, your taxes, insurance, and then there's this whole phenomenal disappearing debt report. I can't wait for us to show you that. Everything's in one place. A lot of our clients are thrilled that they can go to one place and see all their finances, now or in previous years. It provides for the what-ifs. As I said earlier, you can check out the effects of, well, what if I wanted to retire early, or what if I lived longer, or what if the inflation rate changed, or what if the rate of return I get on my investment changes. You can change a figure, you can hit go, and the numbers are instantly displayed. And it's totally interactive. A lot of finance professionals and their clients make adjustments to their plan at any time, but you can access your plan over the web from your home, from office, from your smartphone, or anywhere that you have internet access. All we're asking at this point is if I've given you some food for thought. If you're struggling or debating with some of the conclusions you're coming to those three powerful questions that I asked you about what happens if you do become disabled before 65. And remember, 1 in every 4 people that's listening to this webinar today will fall into that category. What if I do need long-term care? Well, 7 out of every 10 of you that are listening to me right now will need long-term care by the time you reach 65. And what are you doing about retirement income? I'm hoping and praying that we all live to the day that we can retire and that we can have some form of quality of life when we do. Only you know the answer to those questions, and what I'm going to ask now is there's a 4th button down below, and if you hit that button, it'll schedule an appointment for you to talk by phone, by Skype or whatever with one of our guys. We'll ask you to pick a day and a time that suits you. We'll ask you to fill in a very short questionnaire just so that we know a little bit about you and your family and your situations and your goals and your aspirations before the call. Then when we get on the call, we can talk you through this stuff and we can lead you to a place where you're in a position to understand the nature of your circumstances, to realize that you may or may not have any shortfalls or any time bombs ticking, lurking around the next bend in this game of life. And that if that's the case, we'll show you what, if anything, you might choose to do for it. As I said, we're not selling you anything. This costs you nothing. That's a free strategy session with one of our key guys. We only have 5 strategy sessions available each week. You know, we want to reach out to people. We want to do the best for people. We want to help people. But even we can't help everybody all of the time every day. So click the button. Schedule a session, pick a date. If my guys are free, then it'll confirm the time. And as soon as you send us the little questionnaire, we'll email you back confirmation. And then at exactly that time, my guy is going to give you a call. Oh, and just to make it easier, we'll send you an email 24 hours ahead of time just to remind you. If you've got questions, and I'm sure you will have, we'll answer any question you might have and we'll give you all the information that you might need or you might like. So thanks for spending this few minutes with us today. Really appreciate your time. I know your time's valuable and we don't want to intrude, but we really do believe that it's our mission in life to ask all Americans everywhere those 3 central questions, because after all, life is not a game. Thank you.